The Carrizo Springs Cemetery is located in southwest Baca County in the middle of a pasture atop a small rise near Potato Butte Mesa. The cemetery dates from the time of the old town of Carrizo Springs, from 1887 to 1889 or 1890. There are 7 graves at the cemetery spread out across the top of a hill, and it is recorded that the cemetery is home to Harry Teal, who was shot in Carrizo Springs, Jim Mussett, cause of death unknown, 2 young girls of the Veer family, cause of death unknown, George Brenton, a cowboy working for the Reynolds Cattle Company when he drowned in Carrizo Creek, an unknown old man who poisoned himself, and then there's also the grave of E.C. Kabler, cause of death unknown, and it is unrecorded as to who he is. The graves at the cemetery are a bit unique in that 5 of them are built with stacked rock. It is thought that this was to help protect them from animals. The graves are fairly unusual in the amount of work it would have taken to construct them. Carrizo Springs did have a rock quarry right by the town, which much of the town was built from, and this would have given them ready access to rock to build the graves. The most well-known grave, and the grave that has made Carrizo Springs Cemetery famous all the way to the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, is the grave of George Brenton. George Brenton drowned when his horse stumbled and fell with him in a water hole in Carrizo Creek, about 4 to 5 miles south of the Carrizo Springs town site. Harv Kitt, a local cowboy, had set up his camera at the roundup and was taking pictures. He captured the haunting image of George Brenton riding into the water hole on his horse only minutes before George Brenton drowned. George Brenton was buried at the Carrizo Springs Cemetery, and his funeral was probably one of the most well-attended cowboy funerals ever recorded. Harv Kitt also captured the iconic picture he called a cowboy funeral. The picture shows George Brenton's freshly dug grave in the foreground with all of the cowboys in attendance at the roundup surrounding it. The picture is unique in that it captures the essence of open-range ranching. Cowboys from many area ranches were gathered together for their fall roundup. This is probably also why one of the cowboys at the roundup had a camera on hand to capture the moment. The picture is also notable for the local characters that it includes, such as Tom Goodwin, who was a rancher in northern Baca County along Butte Creek and a Baca County commissioner for 8 years. Billy Wilson, who was a wagon boss for the JJs for over 40 years. Walter Dunn is pictured, and he's the range manager and wagon boss for the Reynolds Cattle Company, the ranch that George Brenton was working for when he drowned. There was also Hiram Palmer, who worked for the JJs and was a trail cutter for the Bent County Cattle Growers Association. Fred Hollister, the foreman of many roundups, is pictured as the only one with his pants tucked in his boots. Kid Doss and Bill Thompson are both pictured as well. Kid Doss is known for shooting Bill Thompson at Higbee in November of 1891. Bill Thompson was known as a JJ regulator and an all-around killer for the Prairie Cattle Company. Because this unique moment in history was captured, this picture is locally famous, and a copy of it hangs in the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. If you're lucky enough to visit the Carrizo Springs Cemetery, you can stand in the same place that Harv Kitt did when he took his famous image, the cowboy funeral. And while you're there, you might say a quick prayer for George and all the others buried on that lonely hilltop. The hilltop that was once a part of the Wild West, and which still is, to most.